In the year 1943, as World War II raged like an unstoppable inferno, and every decision made in the war rooms of London, Berlin, and Washington echoed across oceans and continents, the Allies faced a pivotal moment. They needed to break the Axis grip on Europe, and Sicily was the logical gateway, but its logic was also its weakness, because Hitler anticipated the move and had reinforced the island with deadly precision, knowing full well that it would be the likely target. And so the Allies stood at a crossroads: either walk directly into a trap and risk catastrophe, or find a way to mislead the most paranoid dictator the world had ever known to pull off the greatest deception of the war. They needed something more powerful than bombs or armies. They needed a lie, and that lie had to be so detailed, so complete, so undeniably authentic that it would seduce the most scrutinizing minds of the Nazi regime. Operation Mincemeat was born in this crucible of desperation and genius, not in a battlefield but in the minds of a few cunning men inside a London office. Charles Cholmondeley and Ewen Montagu, two British intelligence officers, crafted a plan that sounded like fiction but had the potential to change history. They would take a dead body, dress it as a British officer, plant false documents on him, and release the corpse into waters patrolled by Nazi informants, hoping the lies would reach Hitler himself and convince him to move his forces away from Sicily and toward Greece or Sardinia, thus clearing the path for the real invasion. The first challenge was finding a body that could pass as someone who had drowned at sea. It had to be fresh but not traceable to any family, and eventually they found Glyndwr Michael, a Welsh man who had died from ingesting rat poison and who had no known relatives. He became Major William Martin of the Royal Marines, an identity forged with painstaking detail. They gave him a fiancée named Pam, complete with love letters and a photograph. They filled his pockets with receipts, theater tickets, a letter from his father, and a bill from a tailor. Even the keys in his pocket were chosen to reinforce the illusion that this man had lived and breathed and loved. Then came the most critical part: the deception documents, military orders signed by high-ranking officers outlining a fake plan to invade Greece rather than Sicily, and suggesting that Sardinia would also be involved. These were placed in a briefcase attached to the man's wrist, and he was dressed in full military attire. The body was placed in a specially built canister packed with dry ice and loaded onto the British submarine HMS Seraph. Under the cover of darkness, it set sail for the coast of Spain, where neutral waters teemed with Nazi spies and German sympathizers just waiting for scraps of intelligence. On April 30th, 1943, the body was released into the sea off the coast of Huelva, Spain, and washed ashore. As predicted, a local fisherman found it and notified authorities, and soon the briefcase came into the possession of the Spanish government. Under intense pressure from Germany, Spain allowed the documents to be examined and photographed by German agents who believed they had uncovered one of the most significant leaks of the war. They copied every document, returned them to the British, and sent the forgeries to Berlin. British intelligence, pretending to be panicked, demanded the documents back and expressed fake concern about their compromise. Meanwhile, they anxiously watched German troop movements for signs that the ruse had worked, and incredibly it had. Hitler swallowed the bait and ordered massive reinforcements to Greece and Sardinia, diverting tanks, aircraft, and troops away from Sicily, leaving the island vulnerable and underdefended. When the Allies invaded Sicily in July 1943, they encountered far less resistance than expected, and within weeks had secured the island, paving the way for the fall of Mussolini and beginning the slow collapse of the Axis hold on Europe. It was a turning point in the war, achieved not through firepower, but through a masterfully crafted lie and a dead man who never existed. Operation Mincemeat revealed just how powerful imagination could be in warfare. It showed that wars are not only won on the battlefield, but also in the minds of those who plan them. The success of the operation remained classified for years, hidden away in dusty files, while the world celebrated victories, unaware that one of the most critical moments of the war had come from a corpse floating silently on the tide. It wasn't until decades later, when the files were declassified, that the world learned about Major William Martin, the man who never was, but who changed the course of history. His fake identity was so convincing that even after the war, some believed he had been a real soldier, until his true name, Glyndwr Michael, was revealed. The brilliance of Mincemeat lay not just in its execution, but in its audacity. It was theater, espionage, storytelling, and psychological warfare rolled into one. It preyed on the enemy's assumptions and forced them to make decisions based on falsehoods. The Germans even went so far as to cite the forged documents in internal memos, believing them to be gospel truth. It's a chilling reminder of how easily perception can be manipulated and how the smallest detail can shape global events. And what's even more haunting is that the man at the center of it all never knew his role. He died anonymously, but in death became a weapon more effective than any bomb. Operation Mincemeat stands as a monument to the unseen heroes of war, to the planners and plotters, the thinkers and schemers who work in silence and shadows, crafting illusions that alter reality. It reminds us that behind every battle map and every military maneuver, there are stories stranger than fiction, lives invented from ink and imagination, and ghosts that wander not for revenge but for victory. Major William Martin is buried in Huelva under his false name, with a headstone that reads "Died April 30th, 1943, age 33, and thousands pass it without knowing the truth, that beneath that stone lies not just a man but an idea, a masterstroke of deception that helped liberate a continent. And in the end, as history marches forward, we must remember that sometimes the most powerful weapons are not guns or tanks, but the stories we choose to believe and the courage to tell them even if they come from the mouth of a corpse.